Hello, everybody. We're back with step 9 in the PASL Write It Up Fast series by Dr. Woody, and we're moving into a really big piece. So hang with me here. This is not as bad as it looks. In this section, I decided I would put fewer bullets and put commas between it so you wouldn't really think that there might be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullets on this one. But you can do it. You've already done the hard part, so let me show you how we do this. Okay. So the first thing you're working on this time is what need or needs from the prioritized list did you identify as the focus for your PD plan and why? There's always the why, right? So there's the descriptive writing and then there's the analytical writing. So I just cleaned my priorities up from the previous, remember we talked about these in the previous video. I've narrowed it down to these three. And then I just explained why these three. And so I put a little bit of the data back in there. And I did not specifically mention some of this data yet in task 2, but I did mention it in task 1. So I just pulled the data from there. I could probably strengthen my writing by putting this in the data section from 2.1.1, but it's good enough for now. I'm happy with this. Okay, and then we're going to the goal or the goals of the PD plan. So I put my goals back in here, which were related to the priorities. So there's strengthen tier 1 instruction, and there it is. Strengthen tier 1 instruction. So I've got my goals and my priorities are the same. And you can see a little bit more wording there. And then how will I know that I've achieved the goals? So this is just sort of, it's not really like, I'm not saying that let's just say strengthen tier 1 instruction. How will I know I've achieved the goal? I'm not saying that 90% of the teachers will do this by then. If you want to write SMART goals, you can. I did not write SMART goals. You can see SMART goals have um, the time in them. They've got the measure, all of those things. I did not do that. SMART goals would fit. But you can see here, I just was a little more generic. I said we're going to look at walkthrough data. We're going to look at how SPED strategies are going in the classroom. We're going to look at exit tickets, work samples. So this looks more like the evidence you would see on a campus improvement plan. Like, how did you know the strategy was implemented? That's what we're looking at here. And then C says, how will the professional development plan impact instructional practice and student learning? So then the PD plan, I just stated it right back to them. The PD plan will impact instructional practice by. I hope I covered student learning here. Let's see. Yes, I covered student learning. I kind of panicked there for a minute. Together, these actions will lead to more responsive, effective Tier 1 instruction and ultimately improve student learning, especially for SPED students. So I did put that in there. What research supported the identified focus for the PD plan? So I really like the exemplar on this one said they went to a conference. That's it, pretty much it. On this one, I said that we hired a consultant and they brought in these 4 books. It doesn't really matter. As long as you show that you did something in your plan, that you did not just pull these ideas from your pre-brain, that you actually used somebody else's brain who's done some research and you consulted that before you made your plan. E, what other factors influence the development of the building level professional development plan? And it specifically says budget, schedule, staff, facilities, time. Talk about some of those. So I picked a few: budget, schedules, time, and effort. And then I talked more about the master schedule. I said what the biggest hurdle was there so little time available, which you know as a teacher that there is so little time available. We had to make tough choices. So we did these kinds of things. We didn't really have enough space. Okay. What individuals did you involve? Now remember, you've already answered this question. You answered it in 2.1.1. So I just went into a little more detail because now we're talking about who has the decision-making power, budget power, those kinds of things. So you've identified the barriers or the potential challenges with time, effort, facilities, those kinds of deals. And so now we're saying that the PD committee, plus I spent more time with the AP and the principal because, look here, I said, this is my rationale, because they have primary decision-making power over these impacts. And I spent time with these people to help ensure the plan was aligned. And they also have better expertise and perspectives than I do. And then how will you follow up? So this isn't the chance for you to say, like, we're not back to SMART goals again. We're back to what kind of work are you going to do to make sure that this stays alive? It's like planning for the planning again. So to support the implementation of the PD plan, I make a calendar, I send out calendar invitations, I'm making a newsletter that has reminders in it. I'm going to set up a wow wall to celebrate it. There's lots of ways you can go with that. So let me show you the PASL exemplars, the library of examples. This one is really strong again. I like this one. Okay, so here's what they did for their prioritized list. They did not specifically talk about goals in theirs. They just talked about what they prioritized and why. And then they did talk about their goals here. The goal of PD activities is to do these things. Really strong. And then they added a little bit more. By doing these things, then I'll know I did this. So this is their rationale. And then they were super short on how they know it will make an impact. And they were even shorter on the PD sessions. All this is fine. And then they got longer on the building design activities. These were the factors. You remember we talked about time, scheduling. They got very specific on that. They even put like a dollar amount. So the more that you can give actual numbers, like 16 slots, $200, half a day, all of those kinds of things just keep the descriptive writing alive. And then the individuals involved, they talked about, they did not mention, like I said, I've already discussed who's on the committee. They went back and said again who was on the committee. You can do either way. And then the how to keep the work alive. This is their implementation part. Let me move the mouse. What they would do between sessions, how they would break the group up. You know, what they even did like a virtual option since they were working with other people in their district and they wanted to make sure everybody could access what they were doing. So that takes care of that part, but there's more. This one is tough because it requires artifacts that require a little bit more effort. Now, the one page of PD research is really simple, and I'll show you. All I did was I went to the list of research that I had used, the books, remember? I said that the consultant brought in some books for us and gave us some overviews of them. So I just picked one of the names of the books and I Googled summary because I know Driven by Data has some good like summary pages. So let me show you what that one looks like. So this is a free page I pulled. I just Googled Driven by Data, Paul Van and Toyo, one page. And this is where it pulled up. I would have done better if I had just said summary page. But you can kind of see there's that. I like that one. And then here is the academic plan of the PD plan. You know, it says you have to have 2 pages of the plan. So what I did was I pasted what I've done so far for my PASL answers. I threw in a little bit from, you know how you wrote the contextual information? We discussed that in video 1, step 1. So I took a little bit from the contextual information and the introduction, and I put some of the things in there about the committee. But remember, you only have to give them 2 pages, so I could give them this page, and then I could give them this page, and I could be done. I went ahead and pasted everything in from my chart and from all the things I've done so far because it helped me to gel my thoughts, but you do not have to do that. If you're writing on a timeline, and you are, or you wouldn't be watching this video, give yourself some grace, paste the things in, don't stress out over it. If you have something from a class that you created when you were going through your master's program that works, then use that. It has to be aligned with what you write about, but don't worry about reusing something that you did in college because that's why we did some of those assignments. So I wanted to give you one more look at what the actual prompts say and the representative page information at the bottom. I think you've done a great job on this part and you're ready to just write it up neatly. And then I just want to say, you've got this. This part was a big deal. Now go take a little break and get back to it. Enjoy your latte. I'll see you in video 10.